And now let's move on into an insightful discussion on Africa's journey to safer, stronger systems. Please join me in welcoming the moderator of this discussion, Mrs. Mary Porter Peshka, IFC's Regional Director for Eastern Africa. Welcome, Mary. And let me also welcome the two panelists who will be sharing this discussion. I'd like to first of all invite Professor Hamadi Boga, the Vice President for Programs Delivery at AGRA, Alliance for a Green Revolution in Africa. And I've got a story to tell you about Professor Mboga. He's not a stranger to the Food Safety Forum. When we had the 9th Food Safety Forum, we held it virtually. And Mr. Mboga he stole the show, basically, because he did the opening remarks in the field, which was, truly a showcase on that particular day. So we're really pleased to have you back, Mr. Mboga, and this time in person. Next, I want to invite Dr. Nacha Mglelatsi. Nacha is the global lead for the IFC Food Safety, Food Loss Prevention, and Food Fortification Advisory Platform. Thank you. Mary will engage Professor Mboga and Nacha in a discussion where we will discuss the crucial topic of building safer and stronger food systems in the continent. Over to you, Mary.
Okay. Does it work? Is it working? It's working? There. So my colleague Jamal said Jocko, but I've been 2 years here, so I say Mambo. The Kenyan can tell you the difference. Every harvest in Africa promises nourishment, livelihoods, and resilience. Yet behind each plate is a journey, starting at the farm and affecting public health, trade, and sustainability. From farm to future is about this journey. In this session, we're going to highlight stories of farmers innovating, women leading fortification changes, and communities reducing waste to feed more people. We'll also explore how Africa is reimagining food systems through partnerships, technology, and commitment to better outcomes. So to talk about the subject today, we've already heard, I'm here with two colleagues, one colleague from IFC and one friend from AGRA. We have with us Professor Hamadi Boga, the Vice President for Programs Delivery at Alliance for a Green Revolution in Africa, with nearly 30 years of experience as a scientist, academic, and government technocrat. He's renowned for his strategic leadership, agriculture policy, and fundraising. Well, I have such a loud voice, I bet you heard me anyway. I've told people before, my mom always says, use your inside voice, because apparently my voice does carry without a microphone. Anyway, back to Professor Boga. He's spearheading the development and implementation of the 10-year Kenyan agricultural sector transformation and growth strategy. And my colleague, Dr. Nacha Mglelatsi, the global lead of IFC's Food Safety, Food Loss Prevention, and Food Fortification Advisory Platform. Can you fit all of that on your business card? Okay, just wondering. Show me at the break. In this role, Nacha drives innovative solutions to strengthen food safety systems, reduce food loss and waste, and advance food fortification projects worldwide. She also leads the performance-based grant Food Fortification Project, furthering her commitment to addressing malnutrition and supporting sustainable development goals. Nacha has collaborated with over 200 food and agribusiness clients globally, helping them improve safety as well as increase sales and investment. So I want to kick off with you, Professor Boga. Could you please tell us a bit about AGRA's mission as it relates to building safer and stronger food systems in Africa? No, they control it. Yeah. Baraka? You want to try first?
Thank you very much. AGRA is an African organization which our stakeholders in the room are familiar with, started by Kofi Annan and colleagues and supported by various partners and master and we work across 15 African countries. And our main focus is to help African countries to build systems. Before I went to AGRA, I used to be the permanent secretary in the Ministry of Agriculture in Kenya. And we worked with AGRA in many fronts, including in this area of food safety. So as we engage African governments, we also engage the private sector. And the focus is to make sure that governments have sound policies in all areas of food safety, as well as the capability, the institution, and the people working in those institutions to deliver on different aspects of food safety. So we engage at that level. Apart from working on policy and state capability, we also work in areas of seeds to make sure that countries have strong seed systems, because you can't produce at the levels that we want farmers to produce and earn a living without a strong seed systems. Because of the issues of climate, we have also introduced a business line that is called Sustainable Farming Systems. And in here we have all the issues related to climate, good agricultural practice, soil health, as well as recently we have gotten funding through this business line from GCF to work on post-harvest food reduction and the reduction as far as loss of food is concerned. So we are helping governments, and for this project we are working in 5 countries, 4 in East and Southern Africa, and Burkina Faso in West Africa. And finally, we also work around issues of inclusive market, finance, and trade. So we work with the regional authorities like East African Community, COMESA, SADC, ECOWAS, around the issues that will facilitate trade, one of which is the issue of SPS and all the non-tariff barrier issues, simplified trade regimes, market information, regional food balance sheets for the different regions so that commodities can move around. And we work also to capacitate the private sector to take advantage of the opportunities that are created by working with these regional institutions. And as a cross-cutting theme, we work also to support youth and women to take advantage of the ecosystem that we are working to create with our African countries.
Thank you for that. Nacha, maybe you could take a moment and explain the role of IFC's advisory platform in the grand scheme of safer food systems globally, and of course touch on Africa as well in particular.
Okay, wonderful. Hello, everyone. Now I hope you can hear me. Wonderful. So I can say Jambo, Mambo, and Gamarjoba, which is on my language, hello. It's Georgian language. As Mary mentioned, I'm leading Global Food Safety, Food Loss Prevention, and Food Fortification Advisory Platform. I'm based in Washington, D.C., and traveled 4 days ago because we last 2 days also hosted really interesting event. It is TOT. It was Train the Trainer on food loss and waste, and I see that some of participants from that TOT training are part of this event, and really happy to see all of you here. So for the last 15 years, IFC is advising on food safety. And Our role mostly covers to support not only private sector implementing best practices on food safety, but also lead them to coach them and in their internal staff to build the food safety culture among the company. We 2 years ago decided to add the new product, which is a food loss and waste advisory, and just only last year started food fortification advisory project, which Mary mentioned. I'm leading that project as well. I understand that it's important to have not only safe but also nutritious food. Related to the program, that's structured so that we support private sector companies in agribusiness sector, starting from the food processors, also food producers, and also retailers, improve food safety practices, so providing the initial assessments, understanding the gaps, bottleneck of the company, structure the action plan, provide them with the IFC different tools, training materials, what IFC developed, and also we developed very interesting handbook. Some of you might know IFC Food Safety Handbook, which is one of the most downloaded publication in World Bank Group, by the way. Yes, and I really encouraging everyone to download in case you have not seen it yet. It's on our webpage. We will also provide the QR code on some of other tools what IFC is developing. So, talking about the support, it's not only the helping to implement, but it's also knowledge sharing. And this type of events or different webinars or different like TOT trainings, what we are proposing to a private sector, as well as some governmental officials, support the leading or improving food safety practices worldwide, including in Africa. We also have the team who directly work with the different governments worldwide. We have collaboration and talk on our next panel with the Africa Union, specifically working on food safety and food loss and waste awareness improvement among the policymakers and SPS agencies. And we will talk about that in the next sessions. But here I also want to highlight that in addition of this kind of support, we have also some of the tangible outcomes or some of the work which really significantly shows the results. For example, you mentioned that I worked with around 200 private sector clients. In addition of this direct support of 200 private sector clients, we also had numbers around 3,000, which through our advisory services reduced the food safety risk. We trained more than 10,000 people worldwide. We also conducted more than 300 events last 10 years related to food safety and food loss. And also this all numbers, then business is transferring into the business outcomes. And even on web page, we're mostly updating every time whenever the new results come. For now, this is over 600 million in investment mobilized because of better and improved food safety, and more than 700 million in increased sales. That's what our company showed, and 3 million in cost saving. So that is a number which we got from our clients through the food safety improvements and services, and that is results which also shows us and also lead us to support not only in Africa but in other countries as well. As you mentioned, I'm leading global platform, and because of I'm working also some other countries where the food safety is a problem and priority to improve, we are for sure concentrating our efforts worldwide. Jackie leads Africa Food Safety. We really hardly work mostly in West Africa countries. We now are deciding to also prioritize East Africa, and I hope that this type of events and some of other collaboration of our Jackie's team as well as our upstream advisory team in Africa will lead us to work more here to support more private sector and also governments. Thank you.
So you kind of set us up nicely for where I wanted to go, from strategies and systems to impact. And I was hoping that each of you could share a story or an experience where improved food safety or nutrition made a meaningful difference in someone's lives or in a community that you worked with? I like the real life stories. Are you okay to start again, Professor Broca? I'll turn it around on the next round.
Sure. My story, my life with the food safety issues began right at home. My father was a public health technician. So these are the foot soldiers of food safety. And I could see him struggle within the community. I come from Kwale in Diani in Kwale in the coast of Kenya. And there, the biggest challenge, of course, was in those days when we were young, it was cholera, it was diarrhea, it was most of those gastrointestinal conditions which are caused by food. And he was moving around the villages preaching the gospel of food safety in schools, in markets, in public barazas, talking especially to vendors, pushing them to go for testing, making sure that they are covering their foods. For a long time, it was a struggle because most of the community was uneducated, most of the women were poor, and the environment was tough. And for him, it looked like a mission because every time he came home, trying to manage a cholera outbreak and making sure that everybody is playing by the rules, for us, it was an opportunity to learn, and it was a big opportunity to see how all these public health issues are playing out there. Right now, most of those diseases have been managed in the community, and at this moment, we take it for granted. But at that time, it was a real life and death struggle. Another story which I want to share is more at where I worked as PS for agriculture. At one time, the Kenya Bureau of Standards went to inspect the National Cereals and Produce Board stores. And the headline that week was that almost 80% of the maize in the stores was contaminated with aflatoxins. And this was big in terms of the scandal and the amount of money that we were going to lose as a government. And what we did, we worked, of course, with the Ministry of Public Health and CALRO, which has expertise in aflatoxins, and KEFIS, which also has expertise, so that we could standardize the testing, because we thought it can't be. Even NCPB themselves were doubting those results. And when we had all the 4 agencies, all of them standardized their protocols, how you sample. And there was a young lady at that time who was a young scientist from CALRO who came to my office and told me, Prof, we think there's a mistake in the sampling. Because if we sample together and we sample in a certain way, I think we can make sure that we are not making the wrong decisions. And after a lot of analysis, we realized, of course, there had been an error somewhere. And so the importance of having the right people advising governments, especially when making some of these big decisions around food safety, is very, very important. And so both at the community level, but also at the macro level, the need for information to support decision-making is very, very critical. Yeah.
Mary, I guess I should also respond on that question. Okay. Yes. Okay, sure. So let me start with that. Henry also mentioned this morning about the IFC investment in agribusiness, and worldwide, globally, last year we did the 4.8 billion in agri and forestry, from which around 90% went to Africa. So whenever we are talking on these numbers, it's not only about expanding in businesses, but also to bring the better practices within clients. So we also heard today that World Health Organization reported like 91 million of Africans suffer from foodborne diseases. But I'm so happy to hear from the government representatives that last year's it's 15% reduction of foodborne illnesses in Africa. It's absolutely good to hear. So, and I'm sure that that is because of government put different steps and different approaches on improving. There is a different international organization support private sector as well as government to implement the practices. Now, let me respond to your question specifically. I remember one case, and it was in Mali. So I heard, and I listened that from my expert who came from the mission. She was helping the company in Mali to implement food safety standards, and finally this company managed to successfully certify against one of the international food safety standards. And the worker said to this women that after IFC advisory on food safety, she was proud that she could bring to even her own children safe food, which was come from her own production. So what I want with this, that food safety, it's not only on compliance, correct? It's about the dignity, about the trust, about the care of our community. And in food safety world, what we are saying that if food is not safe, it's not food, correct? So, and always that's on any case of our client work or client studies or client examples, that's what brings that people understand why it's important to have safe food. And I heard a lot of, after the training, what I was before leading the platform, I was a technical specialist for IFC, doing myself the training, doing assessments myself, working with the client day to day. And I heard a lot how after these practices, they not only implement in the companies, but bring at home in the kitchen. Because we also say that food safety starts from farm to fork, and we also need to remember that whatever we will hear, even today on any of the food safety events or trainings, that should be also need to bring at home. Thank you.
So I think, Professor Boga, I'm going to remember forever this phrase, foot soldier of food security. It's brilliant. And you both had women in your examples, or part of your examples, which, you know, is a good segue to the next one, because across Africa, we know women are driving change in food systems from farming to policy making, but their leadership in that space often goes unrecognized and unsupported. So it'd be great to hear from you both on your perspectives on how we can best uplift, empower, amplify the voices and the leadership of women who are trying to drive changes in food systems. Maybe shall we make Nacha go first this time?
I'll be really quick, also looking on time, and I guess that is intentionally put it there so that we worry on that. But yeah, so to respond of that, the short response is by investing in women's technical capacity. Leading them, coaching them, recognizing their pivot role in mostly in agribusiness, starting from farming to the food producer, production, food manufacturing, even retailer. And as I mentioned, even on the at home, yes. And the thing is that IFC invests a lot in women. So we know that we are doing a lot of different type of diagnostics and gender diagnostics related to empowering also women, providing different training. I see my dear colleague Lydia is in the room now, who works really closely with our team in Africa specifically to bring this topic on the top. In addition of the technical capacity, it's very important to have to provide the funding opportunity to the women. And there is other projects at IFC which we'll bring, maybe not talk today, but there will be specific session today related to women at the heart of the food system. It's one of the parallel sessions on today's discussion, and I really believe that people will also participate in this session and hear the real cases, how IFC bring this women's different type of training to increase their involvement in food, increase their technical capacity, and provide them the possibility also to think differently and to think that they could do even more what they're doing right now. And we know in Africa, specifically in Nairobi, I know that women are very active in agribusiness and not only.
And thank you very much. At AGRA, we have a flagship program called Value for Her, which is a platform where women agribusinesses come together to get access to information about markets, access to information about products and business development, and to also undergo capacity development, as well as information about access to finance. And so it's a platform that right now it has about 7,000 women. The goal is to bring it to about 20,000 women scattered across the 15 AGRA countries. So this is a flagship project for us, and we find it's very important, and we find some of the women that we have supported really growing their businesses into export businesses. For example, I visited Malawi, and there was a lady, Ellen Gunda, who runs a company called Fortune Gardens, exporting groundnuts to South Africa and Zimbabwe. And we know the groundnut value chain has problems as far as aflatoxins is concerned. So we supported her with $14,000 to sort of strengthen the farmer education and awareness and on agronomy, basically by having village-based advisors to support the farmers, so that by the time the product comes to her as an aggregator and exporter, it's in a shape that is quality and also in terms of volumes that she will be able to support the market. But also I think the other way we work is also use these women as champions so that they can motivate and support other women, especially young women. We have a program with the MasterCard Foundation that is basically pushing us to intentionally support young women in agriculture with a target of about 80% of the youth we reach should be women. So the digital platforms that we provide at AGRA is a big opportunity, and we intend to grow that so that it can support women across Africa. Finally, other women champions that we engage and work with include people like Professor Ruth Onyango, who was a colleague at JKUAT, who has a journal on food, science and technology, and we work with her. Of course, Rutuba, Dr. Charity Mutegi, we work with her on the food safety and food and feed safety bill here in Kenya, which is right now in Parliament, and she was right at the core of it and quite instrumental in driving the food and feed safety conversation in this country. In addition to it, the other scientists, women scientists that we have worked with, colleagues from JKUAT and University of Nairobi, who have been a constant voice as far as the food safety conversation is concerned.
So generally when we hear people talk about Africa, we hear about all the challenges. But I actually think, I'm a glasses half full kind of girl, I think there's a lot of opportunity on this continent that we've seen community-led change, we see resilience, we see innovation. So what I want to know from each of you for this round is, when you think about what's coming, what inspires you most? What gives you hope for the future of food on the continent?
Yeah, I think on my end, I think sitting where I sit at AGRA, I have a good visibility of most of the countries in Africa. And I think the fact that this year we had the Kampala Declaration in January, which was preceded before by the Malabo and Maputo declarations on Comprehensive African Agricultural Development Program. So the leadership of the AU is really coming together around the topic of agriculture. And moving across the continent, I see a lot of awakening. I see all the countries are embracing the idea of food systems, so that we are not just talking about agriculture, but we are talking at the different parts of the food system. And we are supporting them as AGRA to domesticate not only the Kampala Declaration, which is now a food system thinking declaration, but we are now also domesticating it in the countries and in the region. I'm also hopeful that out of these conversations and with what is happening globally on the issues of trade and tariffs, that Africa will also position itself as not only a market for produce from elsewhere, but also as a big market because of the FCTA agreement, supporting the countries to implement the FCTA agreement so that they can trade between themselves. And at AGRA, working with the regional economic blocs, we have programs to support policy on regional trade, simplified trade regimes, SPS agreements between countries, so that we can open up. And we hope to work especially with the private sector and other development partners to open up the continent so that it doesn't take 4 months to export tea from Kenya to Ghana, because it has to go all the way to Japan before it comes back, which is what the PS for Trade was telling me when I visited his office recently. So there's a lot of opportunity. There are opportunities which are coming with the digital tools so that people have access to information about the markets and the rules, and private businesses have the opportunity to take advantage of this information that is available out of there. We are the continent of the future, projected to have a third of the global population by 2050. And so we should prepare for that and make sure that we take advantage of this natural growth that is happening across Africa. And as AGRA, we are positioning ourselves for that, of course, in partnership with all the colleagues here, the governments, and the private sector.
Thank you. Absolutely agree. So, and I will highlight that the alignment of the national policies and regulatory framework is very important. And we heard today, this morning, about the regulatory harmonization, about the capacity building across the policymakers, which is a very important part to start with that. In addition, what gives me hope is that the energy and enthusiasm I see in younger generation as well. Yes, in Africa, and also looking, starting from farmers, how they are adopting, implementing like this recommended practices. Looking also of the young generation, how they are renovating, entrepreneurs in like using different technologies on reducing food loss and waste, for example, or improving food safety. This really gives me hope. And what I see and realize after the discussions, even these days when I, like last 2 days, participated again, even here in Nairobi on the training, I see that people also now not seeing that food safety and nutritious and safe food is luxury. That is their right. And they understand that already. And lastly, I want to mention that partnerships is very important. International organizations support, and I once again want to highlight what Henrik mentioned this morning. Our president, World Bank President Ajay Banga's announcement about the increase in agribusiness investment around 9 billion, Henrik mentioned, and mobilize 5 billion to 2030. Some of new projects what World Bank Group started jointly, GCP's Global Challenge Program, AgriConnect project, which really looks and develops value chain, create jobs, and also improves improves food safety and security in Africa, and not only in other regions as well. So this all, and looking how other international organizations are involved, working on maybe same agenda with different perspective, really gives me hope to see that, so food safety and also security will be like covered in Africa and not only other regions as well.
So I know the hook's going to come and pull us all three off the stage, but I'm still going to squeeze in a lightning round, 20 to 30 seconds each. If you could ask everyone in this room to do one small thing After today's discussion, what would you ask us to do?
Yeah, I would ask the Ministry of Agriculture here to finish the job as far as the food and feed safety bill is concerned. A lot of work went into that, and it's unfortunate that 4 years down the line we haven't seen it now being implemented. It's very important for coordination of food safety issues in the country.
So I can ask everyone to become a champions for food safety and nutritious food and think about the waste reduction, because I believe that food safety is everyone's job, everyone's work. Yeah, so governments, private sector, international organizations, civil society. So it's everyone's job. So my really one message here will be think about safety and contribute on that agenda. Thank you.
So I'll wind us up just by thanking you both for your insights, but also for all that you do every day to make the world's food systems safer and stronger. And I thank the audience for indulging us. And now I'm hungry, so I hope it's a coffee break after all this talk about food.